Good morning. For my independent reading assignment, I have chosen the novel The Color Purple by Alice Walker. This fictional book is an epilogue story novel, and that is its genre. That means that the story is told through a series of letters. So, the setting of the story, I know that there's 30 years from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, and I strongly infer that it takes place from 1910 to 1940, about there, because it does mention things from World War II at the end of the novel. Also, it takes place in the South, and I believe in Georgia, although not mentioned just because Alice Walker, who's the author, grew up there. There's also moments in Memphis, Tennessee, and in Africa. So these are the characters. Sally is the main character, and most of the letters are from her, but some letters are from her sister Nettie. And the lines just represent the relationship. The double solid represents marriage. Single solid represents siblings. The long dashed line represents lovers, and the short dotted line represents parent and children. So, in the beginning of the novel, we have Sally and Nettie growing up in an abusive home where Sally is molested by her father and their mom is dying. And Sally eventually is forced into a marriage with Mr. Blank, who is abusive and treats her poorly. Nettie runs away and they lose contact for a very long time. So, while living with Mr. Blank, she's raising his children, Harpo and others. And Harper gets married to Sophia. And Sophia and Sally develop this friendship. Also, eventually, Shug Avery comes to their house, and Shug Avery is Mr. Blank's former lover, but Sally and Shug connect, and they develop this really strong friendship. Later on in the novel, Sally and Shug find all these letters Mr. Blank has been hiding from Sally, letters from her sister Nettie, for many, many years. Sally thought her sister was dead. She was so angry. Her and Shug leave off to Tennessee and go off for a while. Eventually, Shug leaves Sally behind, and Shug returns back to Mr. Blank, but they develop this new friendship. Also, we hear from Nettie, who's in Africa and has this whole other life with her. So, a stoppable moment is when Sally sees and meets Shug for the first time. So here we see Sally so nervous, so excited, and before that, Sally always just said how miserable her life is. She was miserable. She was abused, treated so poorly. So when she sees Shug for the first time, it was a stoppable moment because we've never seen Sally like that before. This is another stoppable moment. That's just a quote. So themes that have developed is standing up for yourself is an acquired skill. So Sally takes all these beatings, obeys all commands, pretty much lets anyone walk all over her, never speaks up for herself. Sophia, on the other hand, is never afraid to stand up for herself. She doesn't let anyone walk all over her, and she really shows Sally that women can be tough too and can fight back. Another theme that developed is that religion can help people get through tough situations. So Sally always looked to God as an outlet for peace and happiness. No matter how hard Sally's life was in the moment, she always wrote her letters to God because she felt that he would be there to listen. And throughout the novel, there was these conflicts. Sally always had conflicted with herself, with religion, and is her life going to get better? Another conflict in the novel is man versus man with Sally and Mr. Blank, because Mr. Blank treats Sally so poorly and she just was forced to be there and be his wife. So lessons that were learned is Sally learns to stand up for herself. Sally learns that God is everywhere. Sally learns that to be able to live a swell life, you have to be able to look around and appreciate every little thing, like The Color Purple, which was an awesome moment in the book. And another character who learns something is Mr. Blank, who learns to be a natural man, as the book describes it, meaning that he's at peace finally. He's not a mean, grumpy, lazy man in the beginning. He's this new hard worker that we've never seen before. So a surprising scene for me was when Mr. Blank gives Sally a piece of mail for the first time. So as I mentioned before, Mr. Blank had hid all these letters from Sally. But later on, when they developed their new friendship, respectable friendship, there's a moment where Mr. Blank hands Sally a piece of mail for the first time. And that's addressed to her. And even Sally was like, it was shocking. She was shocked. But it really showed that Mr. Blank had changed. So that's why this was such a surprising scene. So to conclude, this was a very captivating story, and I enjoyed it so much, and I recommend it so much. Every character was a dynamic character, and that was my favorite thing, to see how the characters developed. If I had to pick one thing I didn't like, was how Nettie's letters to Sally were mostly irrelevant, not really important to the story. But anyways, as I said, I strongly recommend it, and I recommend it for people who are open-minded and appreciate loving stories. And I would say ages 17 and up, just because you really do have to be mature and have a mature mind to appreciate the story.